Thank you for being with me today. I'm glad you're here. It's been a minute, always been a minute. Sometimes when I have something, um, just keep me in prayer so I can get through Genesis. And at some point, possibly I'll go through, we can study through it. I appreciate um, the opportunity the Lord allows me to do it. And sometimes I know we don't have a lot of viewings on His channels, and sometimes I don't get discouraged, but the Lord encourages me. You know, when He walked for his 3.5 years, His disciples, his his crowd was minimal, but He went because He set an example for us that we ought to go because, you know, it's we learn and then we go out into our ministry just like the disciples went out to their ministry after Christ's death. So don't ever get discouraged by numbers. Be encouraged by being obedient and going in Christ. You know, never get discouraged. um, do what you can do what you're supposed to do in Christ, and let Him take care of the rest. You know, so that's the way I look at it. I mean, we have a small church, and we go to our church. It's in a small community. Well, actually, it's in Philadelphia, but we don't get a lot of people at church, but we speak to a lot of people around church. And but in time, a lot of people do come through the church, and it may not be at one service, but maybe on Wednesday nights when we have there, but it may be over a period of time. And you know, and they come to hear God's word, and God's there. So to the point that they know where to come for spiritual growth, encouragement, and we always preach and always promote picking up His word and reading His word and studying His word. So the point that I'm making is just go in Christ, and it's all about faith. Money is not faith. It's all about trusting God. Okay. So we'll go through, Lord willing, Genesis chapter 30 through to Genesis chapter 34. It's quite a bit of reading today. I've noticed too, and I use the King James Version Bible, but I'm starting to notice the printing companies are not necessarily using the same words. So it's something, and stay tuned because I am looking at, we discovered a couple verses yesterday at church because we do, you know, we read as a group from time to time. And I use a Cambridge Publishing and there's some other ones that they use. But I'm going to address it because it needs to be addressed. If any changes are made, then it needs to be addressed accordingly. So that's what I'm going to do. You know, we need to be watchmen when it comes to God's word, even though His word, He preserves it, and it's at the end of the day, it's not going to go anywhere. So Pete got my beard. I'll probably shave it next time, but it's on. Genesis 30. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid's wife, and Jacob went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and have also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed, and she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son, and Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed, and she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them into his mother Leah. Then Rachel said, Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God has given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, God hath endowed me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him six sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bare a daughter, and she called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, The Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go into my own place, into my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go. For thou knowest my service, which I have done thee. And remember, Laban is who? The father-in-law. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thy eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hast before I came, and is now increased into a multitude, and the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming, and now when I shall provide for my own house also. And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I would again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock today, and remove from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the he goats that were strapped and spotted, and all the she goats were speckled and spotted, and everyone that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he sat 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and peeled with white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters and the watering troughs when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle, ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not into Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods between the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not into the fuller were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and men servants, and camels, and asses. Genesis chapter 31. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field and to his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that is not toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. And you know that with all my power I have served your father, and your father hath deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he said that thus, the speckle shall be thy wages, and all the cattle bear speckle. And if he said thus, the ring straight shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring straight. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring straight, speckled, and gristled. And the angel of the Lord spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, here am I. And he said, lift up now thy eyes and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring straight, speckled, and gristled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointed the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out of this land, and return into the land of thy kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he has sold us, and have quite devoured also our money. For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his gettings which he had gotten in Padanaram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. And Jacob stole away unawares the Laban the Syrian, and that he told him not that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. And it was told Laban on the 3rd day that Jacob had fled. And he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in the Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said unto him, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the Mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, what hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives taken with the sword? Wherefore dost thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and does not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth, and with songs, with tabret, and with harp? and hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters, thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. It is the power of my hand to do you hurt. But the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, Take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now thou wouldest need be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern, thou wouldest dine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tent, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. And Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And he said to her father, Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of woman is upon me. And he searched, but found not the images. And Jacob was wroth and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Why? What is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, what hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of thy flock have not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it of my hand, as thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day, the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Except the Lord of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac have been with me. Surely thou hast sent me away now empty. God hath seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. Laban answered and said unto Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children which they have borne? Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto the brethren, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jagar-Sha'adotha, but Jacob called it Gilead. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Gilead. And Mizpah, for he said, The Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take otherwise beside my daughter, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast betwixt me and thee. This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this heap and the pillar unto me for harm. the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor. The God of their father judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mountain and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread and tarried all night in the mountain. And early in the morning, Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned into this place. We're now in Genesis chapter 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother into the land of Seir, the country of Edom. That's where the Edomites were. It's Esau's people. Esau was an Edomite. And he commanded, or he's the father of the Edomites. And he commanded them, saying, "Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau. Thy servant Jacob said thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have oxen and asses, flocks and men servants and women servants. And I have sent to tell my lord that I may find grace in thy sight." And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him." Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks, and the herds, and the camels, into two bands. And don't forget, Esau is the brother that at the time that he left believed that Jacob stole his birthright away from him. And and Jacob was sent away by his mother with the intent for his brother not to kill him. All right, earlier chapters we read. So Genesis 32:9 says, "And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saideth unto me, Return to thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become two bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me and the mother with the children. And thou saidest, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude." And he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau his brother, 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their coats, 40 kine, and 2 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 fowls. And she delivered them into the hand of the servants. Every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, saying, Where art thou? And whither goest thou? And whom's are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, They be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that followed the droves, saying, Of this manner shall ye speak unto Esau when ye find him. And say ye moreover, Behold, thy brother Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goeth before me, and afterwards I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept of me. So went the present over before him, and himself lounged that night in the company. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them, and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint. And he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob answered him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And he passed over Peniel. The sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which shrink, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, until this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh and the sinew that shrank. Genesis chapter 33. Now Jacob's heading back home. We just read an important part of God's word, because when he wrestled with Jacob's interpretation of wrestling with God, he asked for a blessing, and that blessing is Israel. And God gave him his name. And not only as we get to the latter part of reading this is important, because God is going to reestablish later on his name as being Israel, and the Israel, not just the man, but the country and the people. And that's where the Jews come from, his loins. And those 66 people plus 4 that's already going to be there at that time is going to be Joseph. That's going to be the 70 people that's going to be in Egypt. And 420 years later, there's going to be over 500,000 people that's going to leave Egypt. So that's where the Jewism starts. And that's what you keep in mind. Even though he had brothers and sisters, and Abraham had his other kids, it's going to father Abraham, father of Isaac, father of Jacob. The other ones, God deals with them, but the Jews come through the seed of Abraham. But the specific seed that it starts from, the seed that comes through him, is going to be Isaac. It's going to be Jacob. But the specific seed comes from him is going to be, it is Jacob. And then from there, that's where when they go to Egypt, which we're going to keep reading, that's where Israel comes from. So keep that in mind as you read. And Genesis is a good book to read and to study, and Lord willing, we'll go through it. I know I've done it before in church, and it's taken about over 6 months. But it's a very rewarding book, and if you've been saved more than 5 years, it's good to go through and read it. And it helps give you a solid understanding of Christianity, which comes through Israel, how things came to be. And so it's very enlightening. So Genesis chapter 33. That's just my insight as I understand it. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children into Leah and into Rachel and unto the 2 handmaids. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. And he passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed them, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the woman and the children, and said, Who are those with thee? And he said, The children which God hath graciously given thy servant. Then the handmaidens came near, and they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also with her children came near, and bowed themselves. And after came Joseph near, and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, What meanest thou by all this drove which I met? And he said, These are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep that thou hast unto thyself. And Jacob said, Nay, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand. For therefore I have seen thy face, as though I have seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. Take, I pray thee, my blessings that is brought to thee, because God has dwelt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before thee. And he said unto him, my Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and the flocks and the herds with young are with me. And if men shall overdrive them one day, all the flock would die. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according to the cattle that goeth before me, and the children be able to endure, until I come into my Lord, into Seir. And Esau said, let me now leave with thee some of the folk that are with me. And he said, what needeth it? Let me find grace in the sight of my Lord. So Esau returned that day on his way into Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shisham, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padanaram and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Ammon, Shesham's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar and called it Elohe Israel. Elohe Israel. Genesis chapter 34. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which he bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Sheshem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the damsel and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Sheshem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor, the father of Sheshem, went out into Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel and lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Sheshem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye should dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get your possessions therein. And Sheshem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Sheshem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, let me read that over again, because the setting is wrong. Verse 13 says, and the sons of Jacob answered Sheshem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto him, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, that then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and ye and we will become one people. But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Shisham, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shisham his son came into the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, These men are peaceable with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land, and trade therein, for the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only hearken with the men, only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people. If every male among us be circumcised, as they are circumcised, shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, that they may dwell with us. And to Hamor and to Shisham his sons hearken all that went out of the gate of his city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass on the third day, when it was sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came into the city boldly, and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shisham his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shisham's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, and their oxen, and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled every one, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simon and Levi, You have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanite and Perizzites, and I being few in number, they should gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, Should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? I'm going to stop there today in Genesis chapter 34, because I believe that's a high point, a very interesting chapter to read. You might want to read that over again, or listen to it over again. And Godspeed, and bless you all.